Is Nintendo really wrong for taking down fan games? Personally, I don't think entirely they're wrong for doing it. It's totally Nintendo's choice whether they want to. I think they're kind. Um, I really don't like to say bad things about Nintendo. I mean, because I love Nintendo. There's just no other company that's better than them at the moment for video game bin, to be honest. But the thing is, like, they're not flawless, and that's why I say certain negative things about Nintendo. But I have to praise them for a lot of stuff. I I know that I sometimes talk negatively about how they treat fans, and this is the main problem I have with Nintendo. One of the biggest things I don't like is the way they treat fans. They should be able to get the products that they want, and they should be able to enjoy them however they want. And then they should be able to have a community where they can show that love for their products. And Nintendo greedily kind of keeps this to themselves, and this kind of ultimately backfires, I would say, on them. I would like to see them open up more to the people, even though, yeah, they could. I get the idea. They have a fear mostly that if they allow too many people the right to do whatever they want with their products, they're going to change the brand or the way the brand is represented to that culture or wherever it is they're launched to. And this is why they don't really allow YouTubers to do whatever they want with games. They kind of monitor them, and then they also try to take them away if they can. And this is a big problem, I would say, overall with the way Nintendo is trying to market these games. They don't do enough to market them, I feel. And if they at least would go out of their way to build a community, like they used to have one in the 90s, even in the early days of the internet, they had more of a community, and now they don't have anything. I feel like I only see the commercials, and it's always just me and just me. And this goes against their own image, where they want people to participate as in a family group and stuff like that. And I think a lot of this has to do with certain things that Nintendo America is failing on specifically. Because in Japan, it kind of works because they're just trying to portray that family image that's just a thing here in Japan. And that works in Japan. And in Japan, where people don't necessarily play their 3DSs by themselves, they play it with friends. Specifically, there's more of a culture of like going out and playing things with your friends. Video games, especially, like you don't. It's not. It's more of a social event where you're face to face with a friend, and this is why Nintendo still does. I would say it doesn't have an internet service because they don't understand. Like, why would you want to play with someone that's like miles away when you can play with them right next to each other? It's a totally different thing. It's basically cultural bound, and I don't support that Nintendo doesn't realize this. And it's partially I blame mostly Nintendo America. Nintendo Japan is fine, like especially in Japan. There's no way I can argue about that. They're doing a great job. Um, I still wish they made the systems more available, but to be honest, maybe they're doing it on purpose. If we've learned anything from like McDonald's, McDonald's is even probably seems to have learned some things from Nintendo because they're doing that whole Szechuan sauce limitation thing. I felt like they did that on purpose because they knew they could ship tons more, and they only shipped like 20 if that packs to some stores, which basically all the employees basically I would say took them all and just sold them online. I wouldn't be surprised. That said, though, Nintendo of America needs to change. Like they need to make demands, or if Nintendo Japan isn't allowing them, or if it's all being run by Nintendo Japan exclusively, they really need to understand more of the Western market, in my opinion. Because some of the things they do kind of just completely backfires is that on them. The fan games specifically, I feel like they have to somehow integrate that system better. I don't blame them for taking down fan games, and I don't think they're doing it necessarily 100% uh, to discourage it, because I don't think Nintendo for the most part takes down games until after they're finished. The reason they do this is because they may be afraid that there's going to be some incentive by the creator of that fan game to try to commercialize on it. And it's better to stop them now than have to sue them for monetary damages later. Because right now, all you do is send a cease and desist, and the person basically just listens to it. In the game, Nintendo knows that once that game's out there, it's out there for life. Like, there's no way you can take it down from the internet. People are always gonna find it, and people are gonna share it, and they're gonna download it. It's fine. But by releasing that cease and desist letter, what Nintendo does is it blocks it from being both affecting their brand and also affecting their trademarks to the product. And I think the part that they're most worried about is affecting their brand. They don't want people to confuse and realize that this and think that this is actually an official Nintendo game, which might happen. So I don't blame them for doing that. What I do blame them is for not finding a better way of managing this. I feel Sega kind of did it better with Sonic Mania. That led basic like the whole fan game culture led to Sonic Mania, and they did that pretty well, I would say, because people don't confuse any of those clone Sonic games to be real or anything. But I think with Nintendo games specifically, like those games were so well done by fans that maybe Nintendo was a little bit worried about it. But at the same time, there should be a community where they encourage some of this stuff. There should be an outlet for Nintendo fans to go and express themselves. Something that's not entirely super monitored, like most of their services that you need to buy first a Wii U to be on, and then it wasn't even integrated very well. There was no community there. There was, but it was hard to add. You don't know anybody. It was faceless in a sense, and that kind of ruins it. And then you couldn't say a lot of things where you get banned and other stuff like that. You can't have that. You need a community where like everything that people are trying to express about Nintendo, something goes into some vacuum or something, and then they can be friends with other people. They can just love that community for what it is. It shouldn't be heavily monitored. Like if it should be somehow they should figure out a community where maybe they don't even have to do anything about it. They can just let it be whatever it is and just maybe acknowledge it a little and then but or take some inspiration from it, but don't like try to monitor it to make it some Nintendo product kind of thing. The way I would say is more like open some Reddit or something, or but at the same time make it official. I really don't know. It's a complicated issue. Nintendo would have to figure that out themselves, but they need to build a community. One of the ways they used to do this in the '90s was with fan clubs that you would sign up for, and then you would probably mail something in. You would get like a membership card and something. You couldn't really talk to anybody back then, so it was kind of just that you felt you were part of something, so it kind of increased sales. That was very common, but nowadays with the internet, there should be a way that you can talk to other people where you don't necessarily have to buy anything. The one thing that really kills it is if the community requires you to buy something to be part of the community, and that kind of really kills it. I think the best thing they can do is encourage YouTubers. I think by discouraging them how they're trying to do it and trying to build a community where they control completely, I think they're failing that sense of community, which they could just let go and like they should not be afraid so much that a YouTuber can affect the branding of a product because it's really hard to do. If a YouTuber hates a game or something, there's gonna be another one that's gonna support it completely, unless you release a game that's totally shit or something that no one wants. You have, for example, with Breath of the Wild, you had I think Jim Sterling did a review which was negative for it. That doesn't mean anything because like everybody else was saying just positive things. Um, so having these kinds of things affected by people, it really shouldn't matter. You should allow it. You should allow a community that people can talk because it builds the product so well. Like you could have just seen it again with the success of Minecraft, and there's been tons of other games. I would say even Cuphead right now is so popular based on just this community thing that YouTube has created. Nintendo doesn't need it much, but what Nintendo does need, I think, is to refresh their IPs. They can't just like keep releasing the same things over and over again. The community dies. Each system should have more IPs released to it every time they release a new system. Even there could be IPs that fade. One of the things that was really good with the Super Nintendo was that there was an introduction of many new IPs, and a lot of them faded, like F-Zero and stuff. We haven't seen a game on it for a long time, and I would even say Star Fox is already almost going away. This is the reason why for Star Fox. Star Fox, I feel, is mostly a technical game. Like it's just supposed to be a showcase to all the like a hardware pusher of whatever system it's on, and I feel like the last system, the last Star Fox game failed on that, and that's why most people complain. It tried to do it with the controller, but it emphasized too much the controller and not the other aspects of the system. And partially, I think this is because the system didn't have it any other aspects to focus on, and unfortunately, that was the thing for that system, for that game. But my point is, if Nintendo manages to build this community, it would be the most wonderful thing ever. Like you can actually go there. People will defend Nintendo for sure, but it's just that feeling that you will find something that you like there, and then you can get used to certain things, and you can buy the games and stuff. I don't like necessarily, for instance, that Nintendo, especially on the Wii, you could download demos and stuff that it was limited. Like you can only open it once or twice, and sometimes I mean sometimes, and sometimes you have more chance. But the fact that it's limited like that, you shouldn't make a demo. You should just make a demo that ends. You shouldn't make a demo that you can open one or two times. Like no one wants to play a demo forever. I know some demos become extremely popular, but that's just I mean, just don't make those kinds of demos then. That have a chance of actually taking off. There could be a time limit in the demo, but the fact that you can only play the demo a few times is just ridiculous. I think they shouldn't do that at all. It kind of because sometimes you can't buy a game for months, and especially when you're a kid, because you just don't have money, so you play that demo maybe 1,000 times before you ever get to play it. But if the demo only lasts like 10 times, by the time you finish playing that demo, time will pass by, and you may have just gotten over that game and bought something else by the time that you actually have money. Um, I know this doesn't happen to everyone, but like I think that's something they shouldn't do. I think it's a bad idea. You can't play only demos and be happy forever. The idea that you're constantly Nintendo's trying to constantly find ways to get push money out of people more and more, it's just not gonna work. I think they should really try to focus on building a community that's just gonna be much stronger and supported, and that way they can maximize their money no matter what. But more importantly, they'll maximize their money for years and years to come. Like there'll be more Nintendo fanboys and stuff like that comes with time, and all the people that are super in love with Nintendo are from the past. It's really rare that you see someone that's in love with Nintendo from the Wii U era. There are some, but I'm pretty sure a whole lot of them, if you can just see how with the success of the SNES Classic, a lot of them come from because they used to play these systems as kids. The PlayStation's been dominating for so long, and so has the Xbox. That Nintendo people that love Nintendo are rare nowadays than they used to be. So hopefully Nintendo does learn. Like Nintendo hasn't done, I don't think, many mistakes. That's just the only thing I can ever point out. But besides that, like I understand what Nintendo's doing when they shut down fan games. I kind of understood when they didn't want to have the fan games be on some award show. The reason being because like that legitimizes those games, and they kind of don't want that. I totally understand that. That's not anything bad. I don't know why people got mad about that. Um, but I think they should relax a little bit more, especially when it comes to how they're portrayed in the West. They shouldn't. The West is completely different than the East, where that kind of stuff kind of may work at the same time, because some people may affect the brand more. But in the West, those people are just ignored for the most part. Like no one's gonna follow what Jim Sterling said, for instance, about Breath of the Wild. In fact, most people attack them. So it's up to you whether or not you agree. That doesn't affect the brand at all. Like what some YouTuber says, people kind of are smart enough to differentiate it between what the product is and what Nintendo's trying to brand it as and what this YouTuber is trying to say about it. Who cares? Like even if the YouTuber is very famous, the fact that he says like some bad words or something in a video while that game's playing, no, I don't think people are that stupid where they can associate the two. At least not people that will be people that you're interested to have overall in the long run, because you need to maximize that money. You can't maximize it if you're just depending on people that are just gonna forget about your game anyways later on. So that's basically my case for this. So like if any of you disagree or anything, just leave comments below. If you like this video, whatever, like it, please hit that button. Subscribe if you want. Again, I'm not sure what I'm doing, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep. I mean, I'll definitely keep making videos. I just don't know, don't know how I'm gonna grow this channel specifically. I just love talking about Nintendo, and I'm mostly going to focus on them as a video game company than any of the others. I still love Nintendo. I hope them better success as time goes on. I hope they do better things. And the thing that I love most about Nintendo is the Nintendo community. If we can have that, like I missed it from when I was a child, and nowadays I just don't see it anymore. So I would love to see it again. Anyways, guys, that's all I have to say. I wish you good luck. Signing out. Bye.